Joe Biden, unfortunately, can't really do anything in office, so he's got to use the same means as somebody who's just trying to have a quick slip and fall and make money. And that is frankly what we're seeing right now. This is exactly a Biden show because he's got to distract the American people. Listen.
But the Biden administration is not responsible for this trial.
How can you say the Biden administration is not responsible for this trial?
It's a state trial. It's Alvin Bragg. Whether you think there's a political motive for him, it's not connected to the DOJ. I mean,
Shannon,
the feds passed on these election charges.
Shannon, you should look at how many logs they have of state officials, Letitia James, Fannie Willis, visiting the White House, and then tell me that this is not a Biden trial. I don't care.
The feds pass on this case is the point I'm making.
You're right. The feds pass on this case. Also, DA Cy Vance passed on this case. And
years ago, and then it came back.
And Bragg passed on this case. You know when it came back? When he decided to run for office. So tell me how that's not an indication that Joe Biden, who just sent his campaign down here with Robert De Niro yesterday, isn't a part of this trial.
Do you not think, though, that any president would want to weigh in on something that's this historic, a former president, his predecessor, whatever the verdict or decision may be?
I wish that Biden had that same sentiment about the border.
After listening to the same tired talking points for weeks about how unfair it is that Emperor Trump has to actually face the criminal justice system like anyone else that's been busted for breaking the law, some Fox personalities are stepping in to clear some things up.
Hey, Eric, before you go, I think it was on Truth Social in the last 24 hours, the former president seems upset that his lawyer, when it comes to closing arguments, his lawyer has to go first and then the prosecution goes second. Doesn't the state always go last? That's what he's upset about.
Yeah, that's New York law. Different states are different. He gave that posting, and that's not the case. Under the law, the defense goes first, then the prosecution goes. He's also claiming that the election expert Brad Smith was not allowed to testify. That is not true. Smith's testimony was restricted by the judge, but it was Trump's defense attorneys. Trump's own side decided not to call Smith, the president claiming something that is, again, false.
It's probably got their audience wondering, am I watching CNN with all this fact-checking and dispelling the lies from Donald Trump?
But a lot of key witnesses were not called.
Again, his defense lawyers chose not to call the very witnesses that he said would exonerate him. It's not the judge, ultimately, that made that decision anyway. It's the stone-faced lawyer right there, standing right beside him.
But like any other time someone from Fox decides to point out the lies that they regularly tell, there are even more that were willing to keep their audience confused.
Todd Blanche, the defense attorney, said, he said, look, the former president could go to jail. And the judge said that is outrageous. And why it matters, it's not the first time that Judge Merchan has reprimanded the defense for their conduct in the courtroom. So they just kept after. You weren't even allowed to say that this president faces going to jail.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So we're talking about what could happen to the former president easily. He could go to jail if found guilty.
As experts say, Brian, it's normal to talk about liberty issues in court. This is not uncommon for someone to bring this up.
Right, and the level in which and the disrespect that he continues to show to Todd Blanche is ridiculous.
So since Faulkner, McEnany, and Kilmeade don't like that Trump's attorney keeps getting his feelings hurt in court for breaking the rules, they refuse to look into why he was reprimanded multiple times during the trial, with the most recent instance during closing statements. Now, a lot of folks may not know why it's important to not bring up the possible sentence that the defendant could be serving, which is why legal experts exist to clear it up on other networks.
Todd Blanche says you cannot send someone to prison. You cannot convict somebody based upon the words of Michael Cohen. And now the prosecution is asking, can we fix this? You cannot, you're trying to generate sympathy.
Merchan just said that he said that Todd Blanche's comment about sending Trump to prison was outrageous.
And their job is not to actually sentence. The jury's job is to find guilt or innocence. It is the judge whose
Judge
job
Merchan is saying you know that making a comment like that is highly inappropriate.
Right.
Would he have known that?
Of course.
Yes.
If prosecutors are not allowed to say anything about the punishment to a jury.
Imagine, if you will, it was a death penalty case, for example, right?
You can't put this man to death.
Imagine if that was a statement. It's going to be, we talk about in the witness, in the information that comes in, prejudicial versus probative value. The idea of going to a deliberation room and having a jury think, gosh, not if it's a matter of proof or you met your burden, but do I want this person to go to jail? I might like this person. I want this person to have the sentence. It's inappropriate.
But in this example, the idea that he's going to prison, it's much more than just a question about one man whose life is going to be affected. It is about the Republican nominee for president of the United States.
He did it on purpose. I can tell you firsthand, because as prosecutors, we hated this. We used to guard against it. We used to try to preempt it. We would jump out of our seat objecting to this.
It's weird how easy an explanation that seems to be very common in jury trials is communicated if the panel analyzing it isn't made up of a former Trump employee and a couple of his fans. But still, some conservatives that watch Fox to have their heads completely buried in the sand don't appreciate the moments of truthfulness.
I tell people to quit watching, media, and even, if I see people depressed out there, I'd say a lot of them, well, I watch Fox day in and day out. Well, they're not going to tell you the hope. It's mostly depressing. Here's what's going on. That's bad. That's bad. And I like to tell people, here's where we have the hope here. Here's what's going on here.
Lindell might still be holding a grudge against Fox for distancing themselves from him after they paid out about $800 million to Dominion for spreading Trump's stolen election lies. His inability to let go of the conspiracies looks like it has his outlook on life in shambles due to their defamation case filed against him as well. Instead of all that depressing news coming out of Trump world, it's better for a news outlet to focus on the hope, like a propaganda outlet would. It's the only way MAGA supporters can remain comfortable in the cult that they refuse to escape from.
She is, isn't she? Shoot that. Oh my God, my name is Beth. Can you please write that? Oh my God.
If Donald Trump does not win, what do you do?
I hope that I'm going to die.
You want to die if Donald Trump doesn't win?
I don't want to live like this anymore. You like our country the way it is now?
What is it that is so bad about where America is or where you are right now with America that you would want to die if Donald Trump doesn't win?
I just don't want to live in a country that is as screwed up as this one. What do you think about the stealing that's going on right now?
What do you mean stealing?
People walk into stores and just can walk out with stuff.
Well, crime is a problem, but there's also a lot of places where people have to...
Crime is increasing every day.
Actually, the data shows it's not.
Well, I don't care what the data shows.
So what do you trust?
I trust Donald Trump. I trust Donald Trump